Now I know I see the green light on. Is that it?
I think it's working.
It's green.
Yep, you're on.
All right. Hey.
I'll see you.
All right. See ya. Hey, folk. Meaning that maybe there's only one person on here right now. Who knows? If you are on, send me a little message saying hi, so I know that my message thing is correctly in tune. And so I'll know that. Oh, let's get this down here where you can see my guitar. There we are. Okay, good. While I'm waiting for people to come on, I'm just going to noodle around. Maybe tune my guitar a little bit first. Here we are. Here's Awesome Ketchup again. Hey. And good, glad to be here. Good, good. Master 2. Hey, man, what's going on? We got somebody from Facebook. That's good. Good, good. Let's see. Came into this world with one lockdown line. I came into this world kicking and screaming line. Came into this world kicking. I just came. I tried to come. I was born into the world. Came into this world just to kick and scream. One or two, maybe two, wanna live to the light. Take some time and take it down. Make it all and lick it down. Wanna take it all and go before I die. I'm just showing you how, like somebody might start a song. Like I've got my 3-string capo on again because it inspires me. That's why. Okay? It just inspires me. It's a good thing. When I feel like, I guess it's 10 after, we got a couple people on here. So let's see. I'm learning how to read signs on here. Okay, good, good. So I started off low. Came into this world kicking and screaming, wishing I was born. Left behind, I'm leaving. So what I'm doing is, I'm setting up a, I just came up with this literally right now. There's been no rehearsal ahead of time. But the way I'm thinking about this is, I started on I'm in the key of E, and I started on the flat 7, which is a real old, like from the British and the Scottish and the Irish tradition, where people, like lopped off, like you chop off someone's head and cut them all up and then go and get drunk. That's what Irish and Scottish people used to do in the old days. Used to murder people and then go get drunk. And this has a kind of a it has a kind of a dark sound to it. So what we're talking about now is prosody. When I start writing a song from chords or melody, let me bring this down a little more, maybe. Yeah. When I start from chords and melody, I like to feel what the emotion is, and then start just riffing. Like I came into this world kicking and screaming, and I didn't know where down. Just leave that blank for now. And mom and dad had a different than a pump pound the head. Could do that again. So starting from music, I'm looking for the emotion of the song. Once I get an idea, like I came into this world kicking and screaming. So what I'm saying is, so I take that idea and I go, okay, so what we're talking about is a guy that or a girl, but in my case a guy who's not getting along with society, who's maybe like a little bit of a rebel. So the song can be about a rebel, and we can call the song, just because we're here today, we could call it kicking and screaming. That's what we could call it. And so I say, come into this world kicking and screaming. Something, what would come after that? Didn't know, I didn't know which end was up. How about that? I didn't know which came into this world kicking and screaming, and I didn't know which way is up. Didn't know which way was up. Okay. Kicking, came into this world kicking and screaming, didn't know which way was up. Still I got on my Then because he's a tough guy, we're gonna take him. We're gonna make the baby almost like an adult, right? So he immediately got up and started walking, right? And then we're looking for a rhyme for up, because that's where the rhyme spot is. Came into this world kicking and screaming, didn't know which way was up. Got up. So I started walking. So I just started walking and found it was. So we're looking for up. Now what I would do now is, of course, I'd start writing it down. and I'd go to my wiki rhymer, right? And let's see, we got some comments here. Because I'm closing my eyes as I'm doing this. No, on the wall, I see somebody's asking me what's on the wall. That's a let's see over here. That is a Telecaster. That is an Epiphone 339, and that is a baritone telly. It's a telly body and a handmade baritone neck that I put on. I own this telly. This is one of the oldest guitars I own. I bought that in 1971, and then I found this baritone neck, and I hadn't been playing this guitar in a while, so I just popped that neck right on there, and it's really awesome. It's I use it every now and then for what we songwriters like to think of is texture. Texture is one of the secrets of songwriting that a lot of people don't think about, but texture is real important, and we will actually talk about texture maybe later in this podcast or this broadcast streaming. What we are going to do is we are going to. Last time I talked about melodies and chords, right? And I realized there's still more to say. Well, hell, there's so much more to say. But I did want to make sure that we covered everything there is to cover in melody and chord. So I thought today we would continue on with the melody and chord thing, right? And so, and like I say, we're just riffing now, just thinking about starting a song because this is a songwriting thing. So I'm telling you my process as I write. So we'll get on with that just a little farther, and then, once we develop that a little bit, we'll move on to some melody and chord stuff. But in the meantime, I'm brainstorming this idea that I just came up with, and I should probably start writing some stuff down. So let me get a piece of paper here and write down some things. All right, so meanwhile, so came into this world kicking and screaming and a screaming, kicking and a screaming. Okay, and I didn't know which way was up, right? You notice how I got that to fit. I was manipulating, and when you get to rewind this, which is so cool, when it gets onto YouTube, and then you can see how I was struggling to get it to fit into the tempo. So I didn't know which way was up. Which also kind of makes you feel like maybe you're down, so you're starting from down, which is kind of cool. Didn't know which way was up. And I could say on the next line, I call this key writing. So I'm going to key off of what I've already written and see if I can continue the thought. So if I say didn't know which way was up, I could use in the next line the word down, which is the opposite, right? So I could go, I started from down, went round and round, started from down. Meanwhile, started from down. Now I decided to, I know this is kind of, this isn't a great song, okay, but it's showing you an example of how something might start. So I thought, let's do an inner rhyme here, just for fun. So I started from down, went round and round. So, I got that little inner rhyme. Whenever you flop a little inner rhyme in there. It says to the listener, hey, this guy's pretty cool. He knows what he's doing. Throwing those little inner rhymes in there. Now, what I mean by inner rhyme, to make sure you all know what I'm talking about, is it's something that's gonna rhyme with the end rhyme. So you could call it inner end rhyme, because there's also inner rhyme that doesn't rhyme with the end. But so this is actually an inner rhyme. It's not inner end. Started from down, went round and round. And ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, up. I need to rhyme with up, okay? Now, there's so many wonderful rhymes with up that are not exactly like up, but that might have the sound in them, and we call this soft rhyme or slant rhyme. And I use soft rhyme and slant rhyme a lot. And the reason for this is because, and I've said this before, but I will say it over and over again, perfect rhyme is actually also called hard rhyme, because it's overused and cliched. So you have to be careful about picking your words so that you're not cliche rhyming like heart and start. Those are very, very difficult, extremely difficult words to rhyme. The only way I would ever use those two, like heart and start, is if my line that led to that heart and the line that led to start was pretty unique, pretty original, right? That would be an absolute must if I was going to use heart and start, right? I wouldn't say, I loved you with all of my heart from the very start. It makes my ears ring. Yeah, with so we don't want to do that. So if I was going to use those, I would come up with an original line. But for now, we're just looking for a rhyme with up. Well, I would go to wikirhymer.com and I would type in, up, and I would find all kinds of, wonderful rhymes. But just for today, because I don't want to get on, and get distracted from the show here, I'll just tell you the only thing I really need for up or down went round and round and end up getting cut. All right? And that'll rhyme with up. It's a soft rhyme, but I love soft rhyme because it's unpredictable. And I love to give my listeners a little surprise, series of little surprises, right? Like predictable, surprise, predictable, surprise, and then surprise. You don't know when they're going to come in, but I always like to have those little bits of surprise that are unexpected, but we call them happy surprises. Because why? Because you like them when you hear them. You go, oh, that's wonderful. Okay. So let's say started from down, went round and round, ended up getting cut. And I'm using up again, so I may rewrite that to get rid of the double up, ended up getting cut. Now, just talking about, when you're a beginning writer and you come to Music Row, you come to Nashville, the general rule is about songwriting is you don't want to use the same word twice in a song. Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, no. So I had to learn through ups and downs and experience and taking some beating that rules don't always work. Sometimes a word like this word up, I've got, didn't know which end was up. And then I said, started from down, went round and round, ended up getting cut. Now, ended up getting cut, up and cut rhyme. So that's an inner end rhyme. I have an inner rhyme, the down and round. That's an inner rhyme, not rhyming with the end. So I've got a lot of rhyming there. So sometimes when you're pinging the rhyme so much, the listener will forgive you for using the word again. And sometimes you want to use a word, what I call an echo word, where, like for instance, I started from down, went round and round, but down didn't work for me. See what I mean? So I used down purposely. I echoed that word and continued it on. I'm on purpose repeating it because there's a little bit of a theme in the word down, so I can repeat it. So don't think that you cannot repeat a word. That's just not true. Another thing about repeating words that you want to remember is if I use a word, let's say I use the word kickin' on the very first line. Now, if I continue writing this song, way down towards the end, maybe in the bridge, I could use kickin' again in a completely different way. No one's going to know. No one's going to know, right? They don't care. In the real world, right? They just don't care, right? So that's where I'm going with that. Let's see. And, you know, there's a lot of instinct involved in this. You know, it was interesting, for one thing, it was interesting that I started the song on the flat 7, which is really weird. But, you know, weird, that's why we're here, is to learn some weird things and to try new things, right? So I tried, this is in the key of E, and so I went to the D, and then I walked down, and I got my 4-string capo on, so it's let me see if I can get in here. So I'm starting. So that's D. Now that's the third of the 4 here. There's the 4th chord, which is A, but I'm playing it in the G position because of this lovely 3-string capo. So I've got a dadgad here. It's a fake dadgad, but the beauty of it is I don't have to change the way I finger. So I finger exactly the same way. I won't go back over it. In the first lesson we talked about this. So we go. So that's the first time we hear the 1 is at the end of that whole phrase, right? And then doesn't that sound cool? I love the sound of that. And again, I'm just riffing and going. This is a format that I've never come up with before. So it's kind of wild and crazy, and I like it because of that. It's kind of interestingly unpredictable. Notice that was I'm humming an asymmetrical lines. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, bam, 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 da, 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 I cut it short. I didn't go bam, 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 ba, ba, da, 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 bam, 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 ba, da, 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 da. That would have been a symmetrical couplet, but I'm going to do an asymmetrical couplet. Bam, 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 ba, da, 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 da. Space. Oh, space is really, really nice. Space, you know, they say that space is just as important or more important than the actual notes you're playing. space is like the real, that's the real deal, right? He had it up earlier. I'm wondering if he is remembering to look at chat. Is he new to this? Yes. Yeah, Awesome Ketchup, I am new to this. Yes. And it's hard for me to read and teach, so I have to remember to go to the chat thing occasionally to read it. So I apologize if I don't answer your streams right away. I mean your chats right away. Yeah. So that's kind of how we're going here. I got an asymmetrical couplet. That's just beautiful the way that all comes together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So we're ending on the downbeat. So the last little bit has 5 stresses in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or 5. Right? So now that is a complete unit. That's a complete, let's call it a section, right? And so now I can write another section like that, and then after that, I would want to come up with a possible variation. Now, there's a possibility that I could go. I have an old student in chat. I wonder where the old student is. Is it Awesome Ketchup? Oh, there's somebody going, Miss Snuff, blah, blah, blah. All good. Just glad to see him again and doing this. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. So now at this point, because we're talking about music today, I have choices. Now that I've completed a musical unit, I can decide to vary it after, let's say after 2. That's usually the standard. I'll do this section twice. It's called the rule of 2, right? There's several rules we want to talk about. There's a rule of 1, 2, and the rule of 3, right? Rule of 1 emotional message per song, okay? 1 emotional message per song, that's good. And then 2, whenever we do like a motif or a motive twice, we want to move on. The ear wants to hear us move on, right? So let me give you an example. I want to remember what note I started on. Okay. That's once. Did you feel a little tension going there? Because the ear wants it, you wanted it to change after 2. So if I decide not to change it after 2, knowing that rule, I'm purposely creating tension in the listener. So I'm using my little tricks, my little melody and chord tricks to create the kind of tension that I want. So if I want more tension, I would have done this more times. See what I mean? So, but I decided, no, I'm not gonna push that melody. I'm gonna create a new melody, which was. So I have actually, how many motifs do I have? I've got at least two. This, so na 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 na. That's another motive. Now here's a new one, a third one. So now I've got three motives in this section. Well, now we move to the rule of three. Okay, the rule of three says there will be three different musical sections per song. Again, give or take. If you're listening to pop music, there's a lot more than three now. There can be 4, 5, 6 different melodies in a song now. Little motives, little musical phrases, they call them. But in this case, I've got three musical phrases already. They're not, the second and third motive aren't a lot different, so it's not like a huge difference in the three. There's quite a bit of difference between the first one and the second one. There isn't a lot of difference between the second and third, but nonetheless, I do have three. So because I have three, I now can decide, I can go, I'm just going to do this verse over and over again. And I'm not going to do another section because I've already got three musical sections in this one section. So if I wanted to show like a story song, a song that might do well with this repeated, what we're going to call this a verse, or in the case of a non-chorus, we would call it an A section. But so if I just want to repeat this verse or A section over and over and over, I am creating some tension by doing that, because once again, after I do two of these sections, they're expecting me, the ear of the listener is expecting to hear a different section, what we would call a bridge, or it might be a chorus or a bridge. It could be either one, right? So I can decide in my creative moment, I'm going, I really like the way this is rolling, and I just want to create what we call a groove song, which is just doing the same thing over and over, add, infinite item, whatever that word is, infinitum. So, but let's just say I want another section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the new section with another chord instead of this one. I'm going to get this clicking stop here. I got clicking on my sleeve here. Sorry. It's the trouble with sleeves. Got to roll it up there. There we go. So let's just get in the groove here and let's see where we're going to go with this. I can hear the 4 right here because I'm already on the 1. Ba-da-da. That's a nice place to go. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. Na-na. Na-na-na-na-na-na. I do realize because I started this song on the flat 7, I'm going to have to, at the end of this next section that I'm writing, I am going to have to get back to the 1, I think. I'm going to have to get back to the bass chord so that it sounds normal for me to go to this one, because this chord needs a reference chord. Once the song gets going, it's going to need a reference chord, something that agrees with it, as it were, a chord that agrees with this. I can't get to this chord from any chord in my chord of choice, in my chord catalog of chords here for this song. Not every chord will lead to this chord, so I have to be careful in my next section, like a little pause, nice. Under the wire, or what do we say the type was? Kicking and a screaming, kicking and a screaming. Well, that's kind of cool. Let me tell you why that's cool. If I end this next section kicking and a screaming, because we decided that was kind of the title, notice I'm not going kicking and scream. That's ending on the stress. I'm going kicking and a streaming. So that men, M-I-N-G, and I'm taking the G off because I'm cool. All right? We don't say G, kicking, screaming. We don't do that, no. Songwriting land, we do screaming. Screaming. So, kicking and a screaming. Yeah. Going down, kicking and a screaming. Whole world is kicking and a screaming. I love that. Now we have what we call a feminine ending, screaming. We have a masculine ending would be kicking and a scream. That's masculine because the downbeat is the last word. But if the last syllable, if the last syllable is an unstressed syllable after that downbeat, that's a feminine ending. Kicking and screaming. Now, can't you hear there that there's so much tension right there? Because, again, what the listener wants to hear and what you're giving them could be two different things. I love that. So what I'm doing with my listener is I'm giving them an unstressed syllable at the end of the whole thing, at the end of the chorus. So I'm leaving this song on an unstressed syllable, and that's creating tension. And I love that because the song is about, this whole world is really messed up. I came in the world kicking and screaming, but it turns out the whole world is kicking and screaming, right? And that's what the chorus is probably going to be, We don't want the second section to be too much like the original one. So, that's right. I went sorry, forgot. I went the 4 to the 5 to the minor 6 to the 4, 4 to the 5 to the minor 6. Da 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 da. I could go down there if I wanted to. Da, da. That's the 2, 7. Kind of weird sounding with that 3-string capo on it. It's really nice. Kicking and screaming. Yeah, the whole world is kicking and screaming. The whole ding dang world is kicking and screaming. I found out this whole world is kicking and screaming. There we go. I found out this whole world's kicking and screaming. And this is all first draft. I found out this whole world is kicking and screaming. The is very important. Screaming apostrophe, right? I found out this whole world kicking and screaming. I don't know if I like that. That kind of sounds, the texture of that. No, it gets off on a trail I don't want to go to. So. Found out this whole world's kicking and screaming. Yes, I found out this whole world kicking and screaming. Anyway, you can see where I'm going with this. Now, I've got a rough structure here. I've got two really nice two nice sections, and in the B section or the chorus, I've got two motifs. Repeat that. So I found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming. I found out this whole world's kicking and screaming. I could introduce that flat 7 again in this section if I wanted to. Kicking and screaming. Now, why will I not do that? Because I wanted to save, I'm thinking I better save this flat 7, which is a D. I want to save that for the verse, so that the verse has something separate. And notice that I put it in some separate chords in the B section too. The 4 to the 5. Now we haven't heard the minor 6 yet. Oh, I could stretch it out. How did I do it? Oh, I forgot what I did. Oh well, that's the songwriting process. I like going to this note. Da 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 da. I could go there. That would be going back to the 1. I'm always looking for notes that harmonize with the chord. So if I want to go ba da 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 da, that's the 4. Da 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 You see how I'm experimenting? I'm trying different things. So I don't always necessarily land. The first thing that I come up with isn't necessarily the thing that I'm going to end up with. I may, in the process of writing this, I may come up with something different and something that I actually like better. And when I say like something, I mean something that feels deeper emotionally for me, because songwriting is all about emotions. And so I'm looking for something that affects me deeply, right? So only need a little. Right? So I extended that out. If in my lyric writing I decided, oh, I need to say a few more things here, I can extend it out from my original second section was just 4 to the 5 to the 1. I could extend it by going just 4 1 4 1, and now go to that part. I could extend it out by doing. That's an inversion, and they're always fun. This is the first inversion of E. There's E with the E on the bottom. The first inversion was using the third as the bottom, because the three notes in any triad, in any chord, is the 1, 3, and the 5 of a major chord, right? 1, 3, 5, 1. So I could go na 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 na, first inversion. Na na na. That coloring sounds really so temporary, doesn't it? That's because the first inversion, which starts on the third, that is very unstable. You hear how unstable that is? You're going, oh my God, I've got to get off of that. I still got to get off. Right? Now, if I did the 5, the second inversion, which is starting on the 5. Sounds very Scottish, doesn't it? Aye, mate, it's very Scottish. Very Scottish, and it's got a lot more balls to it, doesn't it? So but to keep it real tense, I'm going to use that also, so I can do one of two things with that really unstable first inversion. I could go back, go back, or I could go down. Oh, that's interesting. It's a lot of movement, That's the F sharp minor. I could go back up. And that would be a good idea if I chose to do this. Why is it a good idea? Because I'm saving the 1, I'm saving that low note, saving it for the end of the chorus. So found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming. Sweet, huh? And did you also notice that the 1 never came into that except then? Found out whole world kicking and screaming. I found out whole world kicking and screaming. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick about that feminine ending that's causing everybody to go crazy, right? I can resolve that feminine ending if I want to, right? I could go, watch this. The whole world kicking and screaming. I took that last unstressed syllable and I stretched it all the way to the next downbeat. I found out there's a whole world's kicking and screaming, screaming. Well, that's not that's the secondary downbeat. Scream 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Found out there's a whole kicking and screaming. Right? Like taking it easy, taking it easy. The Eagles, taking it easy. It went all the way to the next downbeat. Taking it easy. He could have gone halfway. Taking it easy. That has a little stress in it, because it went halfway to the downbeat, which we call the secondary downbeat. Taking it easy. That's a little stress, but not a lot. Taking it easy. No stress at all. And it's interesting because he's saying take it easy. So he turned a feminine ending, taking it easy, right? Very, very stressful. Took that note all the way to the next downbeat, right? And in my case, I'm going to take it. I found out there's a whole world's kicking and a screaming, screaming. I took it to the. I paused one bar. Let's see. Whole world kicking in a 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could go all the way. I found out there's a whole kicking in a 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's too long, isn't it? Yeah. So it didn't sound right. So I think just doing it, skipping a beat and putting it on the next beat resolves it enough, doesn't it? I found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming. Right? Yeah, so we learned, what did we learn? We learned, God, we're learning so much stuff today, people. Let's review. We learned what the rule of 1 is: 1 emotional message per song. 2 is when you do, after you've done 2 motives, 2 musical phrases, typically you want to change the music. And if you don't, what happens? Tension. We like that tension. Or not. 3, the rule of 3 is we want to have 3 musical sections or 3 musical motives, recognizable motives per song, right? And so we found out from that rule that this little verse that I set up can be repeated over and over, because I created 3 musical motives in my verse. Now I'm going to take my phone here. I've got a red phone, very nice red phone 11. I'm going to go to my musical notes, and I'm going to put this down right now, just what I've got, and that way I'll remember it later. Or, if we need to use it later and suddenly I get off on the track, at least I'll know what I'm doing. Okay. I've got the capo, the main capo up 2, and I've got my 3-string capo on. So I'm in the key of E. I'm going to start on the flat 7. Came into this world kicking and screaming, and I didn't know which way it was up. Started from down, and I went around. Ended up getting cut, but I found out later that I did was wrong. Bam, 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 down, ding. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 kicking and screaming. I found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming. Now the B section will be. We're going to start on the G, on the 4. Banana, go to 5, go to the minor 6 to the 4, 4 to the minor, na 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 na. I changed that note. I think na 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 na. Second time, I'm going to give it another one. Cause I found out I found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming. Little accent there. I found out there's a whole world kicking and screaming, screaming, yeah. Okay, good. I've got that. And because I've been playing these chords so long, I don't have to shout out every chord for myself. I can just listen to it and tell what chord I'm playing. All right. So that's just showing you how one guy might start one song, starting with starting riffing on a chorus, right? Riffing on on some chord patterns, and just kind of figuring out how it goes, and then I put a melody to it first, and I thought, again, we always want to go with prosody, with the way that the chords feel. They feel tense, they feel edgy, so I'm going to go with kind of an edgy opening line. Notice that I started this song without any idea of where the song was going to go. This is called writing forward. And there are successful songwriters that write both ways. You will typically hear that you need to have an idea when you go into a writing session, and that's actually not a bad thing to have ideas, because that way you can get started pretty quickly. But I've also known. Done sessions with myself alone or with other writers where we just start like I did. And you can go rewind this tape and see how I just started riffing on chords and somebody came up with a melody. And then the melody led to the type of lyric that would lend the emotion to it. And that's where I started. I came into this world kicking and screaming. It sounded like that. And then from there, you go forward into the muck, right? We don't know where it's going to go. We have no idea, but we just know we came in, and now we're here. It sounds like it's a song of then and now. This is how I started out. This is where I am today. And for the third section, we could even do. It's hard to do backwards. I could even do where it's going in the future. Ooh. That's the one of the oldest tricks in the songwriting cheat book, is the element of time. If you're writing a song and you run out of things to say, you can always look at your time element. What's the backstory to where I am? If I'm in the present moment, you can say, let's talk about the backstory for a minute. Or if you're in the present moment, you can go, what is it going to be like in the future, right? Yeah, so you can use this. You can also use the ongoing present, like whenever I do this, I feel this, or I do this, or I want this. Whenever I walk down Main Street, I can't help thinking about you, that kind of thing. That's whenever. That's the ongoing present, right? So those are some of the wonderful tricks that songwriters use. All right. let's get back into just a little bit of lesson here about the music thing. I want to talk to you a little bit about music and chords. As songwriters who don't have any training think about it, I love to. I've talked about this before. I could never be a poet because music, to me, makes everything so much more interesting. Because you can take a lyric and you can do so much more with it with a melody, right? So let's talk about what notes can do. Notes can go up, notes can go down, notes can stay the same. Okay, that's your pitch. So I can go da ba 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 da 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 ba da 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 da, and there's an emotion to that. And you notice how I'm always going to relate emotions to everything, because songwriting is about emotions, people. So if I go ba da 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 da, that's pretty happy and relaxed, isn't it? Because it's going up, right? It's ascending. Now, what if I start a song by going down? Ba da 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 da. That has a whole different feel to it, doesn't it? Ba da 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 da. It's kind of funny. It kind of has a little bit of a sort of a final thing. It has kind of a little bit of sort of, I don't know if sad's the right word, but a little bit sort of not happy. You know, da 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 da. Harlan Howard said, when he talked about the songwriting process, he said, tell him you're going to tell him, and then tell him you told him. Which is actually something he learned and I learned also in the jingle business, right? So when you're writing a jingle, tell him you're going to tell him, and then tell him you told him. So in other words, so when I start a song, ba-da-da-da-da, I'm signaling to you at the very opening line that this is probably going to be a happy song, right? It's going to be on the happy side. There's only two, when you see the faces for acting, you see the comedy mask and the tragedy mask, right? Over here. Comedy, tragedy. Yeah. So there's only two ways that a song can go. You can either go happy or it can go sad. Or it can go, it can go, sad can be angry, jealous. There's a lot of sad things, right? Happy can be love, like, adore, going a place that you love, the sad, happy. But so when I start a song, ba-da-da-da-da, that's going to be, I'm thinking this is going to be, this could be a happy song. Another thing that we can do is repeat. So melodies can go up, down, or they can repeat. So if I start a song, da 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 da, now that's a whole other emotion, isn't it? I don't have any words yet, but check out the emotion of that. Da 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 da. Now, the longer I go repeating, the more tension I'm creating. That's right. I'm creating tension. And at this point, you don't know if the tension's going to be funny or if it's going to be serious. I haven't let you know yet. I guess the lyric would tell you that, wouldn't it? But it definitely creates a sense of anxiety, might be a good word, right? You're the listener's thinking, when are you going to get off of this thing? Like one of the challenges you can do as a songwriter is start a song on a single note and see how long you can go on that note before you have to get off it, right? See how long you can go on it. With that in mind, let's try something. let's do a single note. Let's see when we get bored with it, right? See, you're really getting bored right there, right? Watch this. Oh yeah, thanks for the sparks. That was a spark, right? Am I learning? Woo. Run from it. Okay. So do you see what I did? I was changing the chords, you know. So you know, a great example of this again is the Eagles thing. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na. How does it go? Oh, I can't remember how it goes anymore. But anyway, the opening of Hotel California, he keeps going through the chords. I used to know how to do it. I'd have to rehearse it and practice it again. Maybe I'll do that on another day. I don't want to waste your time with it. But you got the point, right? That notes can go up, and that's leading sort of towards, you know, a decent, a nicer outlook. Notes going down are leading to kind of a little bit of a darker or troubled song maybe, and notes that are going straight are leading to a little anxious, not sure. Maybe could be happy, could be sad, but it's anxious. And the longer you leave that note going, the more anxiety you're creating in the listener, right? However, thinking about that same note, we just showed you how you can change the chords on that same note, and suddenly that same note sounds really, really awesome, doesn't it? It sounds incredible. I'm going to take a little sip of water here, and I'll let you take a little break. Delicious. Got to drink a lot of water. You know, if you're a singer, oh my gosh. Whenever singers come to our house, they come with these big liters of water like this, and they drink the whole thing while they're singing. It's amazing. So let's get back to this. So that you can go up, you can go down, you can stay the same, or you can arc. Let's see what it feels like to arc, shall we? Oh, we don't have the 3-string capo one anymore. Where did that thing go? Oh, it's right here. Again, I love to use this just because I love the sound of it. So I can go, see. It's like you were giving them a little hope, and then you bailed out on it. So you're going, I'm happy, and then, oh well, maybe not so much. Oh, let me turn this off. I've got my ringers on, and it's making all kinds of noise. There we go. Da 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 da. So it's up, you're feeling good, and then suddenly it goes down. Oh, somebody donated $3. Woo! Thank you. Thank you for donating that money. That's a wonderful thing. As you know, I know we have some people on here that may not be in the CreatiVets program, but I will just remind you at this point, thank you for the $3, that I'm on a CreatiVets, on the CreatiVets website, and this is set up for veterans. It's a creative channel for veterans. And I'm on the songwriting end of it. One of the many people that will be on the songwriting end of it. And so we're bringing the arts to veterans. And the idea is to turn the warrior mentality into the creative mentality. And although my creative mentality is pretty weird, I don't know if you want to go there or not, but anyway. So I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the vets. And we really appreciate that because, as you know, veterans come back. They've done a lot for our country. They put themselves in harm's way. And when they come back from all that, sometimes they're just not at all well. Let's just put it that way. After, witnessing so much serious adult stuff, in the battlefield. And so this is one of the things we want to do. I'm a veteran myself, Vietnam. I was on the USS Ranger, CVA 61, out of Alameda. Yep, 6,500 men on that floating city. And we were off the Gulf of Tonkin, 67, 68, early, before the Tet Offensive. The Tet Offensive was coming up, I think, in the middle of 68. So we were flying 5 missions a day, sending those bombers out over the country to cause us to win. Anyway, so we want to thank. I want to take this moment to thank you, veterans, for serving our country and for serving humanity in general. You people, you men and women, you care about others enough to put your life on the line, and that's saying something. That's the ultimate sacrifice right there. Even when you come back alive, which of course we all hope to do, it's still the ultimate sacrifice. When you say, I'm willing to die for my country. Let's grab this here gun and go out there and see what happens, right? It's a pretty dangerous thing. Anyway, thank you very much, and let's get back to our pre-scheduled program. So we're going up. The arc goes up and down. So that's what we would call it, a rising arc, right? Thank you for the strawberry. So I stayed up on da 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 da. Started heading back up. So you kind of feel, well, it's a little bit happier than sad, isn't it? Went all the way back down. So now I've given you a multiple of emotions, haven't I? So it's happy with conditions, right? Yeah. And we can do the same thing. Like let's do a low arc. We've got a rising arc and a descending arc. Let's try that. Notice how descending chords, descending melody. So that has a very strong emotional connotation to it, doesn't it? So music is such a great connector to your emotions. And I said this earlier in my first one, but I'll say it again. Music is a direct connection to your emotions. It bypasses language, which is wonderful. So it's going directly to your emotional center. So there's no filters. It's just getting right in there. And I love that about music. So I don't think I'll ever be a poet. I'm always going to be a musician because I always want to put my poems to music, because you've got that extra added element of emotion and entertainment, in the music, right? So now we know we've got music going up intervals, down intervals, and the same, or we can have a rising arc or a descending arc. Both of those have different emotional connotations. All right? Now, let's add to that. Now, we've been assuming that all our notes are just bing, 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 bing. Let's add to that timing. Timing, and again, I've said this before, but rhythm, some will say. I've heard it said, timing is the most important thing in music. Timing is really important. Really, really, really important. The rhythm, line rhythm, right? So I'm going, let's say I'm going, let's do an ascending melody. Da, 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 da. Now let's change the timing of those notes. Da, 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 da. Right? That changes so much. Like, didn't we have, we had a phrase here last time. I think we had, she walked in the room and started to cry. She walked in the room and then she started to cry. I believe that was it. I don't know if I have my notes. She walked in the room. Oh no, she looked out the window and started to cry. Right. She looked out the window and started to cry. We did some experimenting with that, but we can even do more. I realized after my time was up that, heck, I could do more. I could do more of that. She looked out the window and started to cry. So let's break it up. The natural line rhythm is she looked out the window and started to cry, right? Let's break that up. She looked out the window and started to cry. Yes, she started to cry. Yes, she looked out the window and started to cry. Started to cry. See? I stretched that one note out. I looked out the window and started to cry. Now I could go, she looked out the window and started to cry. See, I can pick any one of those words, preferably an important word, and that's going to punctuate that word, isn't it? Looked out the window and started. Looked out the window and she started to cry. Yeah, she looked out the window and started to cry. Or I could just do it on the cry. Looked out the window and started to cry. Looked out the window and started to cry. Right? So, and here's another thing. So we've got long, short, long notes, short notes. And another important thing we have, and this is really important, is the pause, and its first cousin to the pause is the stop. So a pause would be like, she looked out the window, started to cry, started to cry. That's kind of a pause, right? Let's do a stop. Well, she looked out the window, started to cry, started to cry. That's a real stop, just stop. Very effective. Stops can be very effective. Pauses can be very effective. Just depending if you want to, like a stop is a pause on steroids, right? But there's nothing better than that pause in a song to really get someone's attention. Remember we talked about music is a lot about setting up expectations and then either giving them what they want or give them a little surprise. So if I say, well, she looked out the window and started to cry. Yeah, she looked out the window, started to cry. That pause. If somebody was, talking to somebody at the table, you're up on the stage and you're singing a song and suddenly you pause, they go, what was that? And they look up. In my days when I was an entertainer and a performer out there on the road, hitting the boards, I would notice that you could get someone's attention by being loud, but you can also get their attention by being quiet suddenly. So, she looked out the window and started to cry. And when I went there, she looked, everybody go, out the window. It's an attention getter, that pause, right? And let's see what else we got here. So we got timing. So we got long notes, short notes, pauses, and stops, right? We've got notes going up. We've got notes going down. We've got notes repeating. We've got notes with a rising arc and with a descending arc. So there's a lot to work with there. And all we got, and of course there's about 5 or 6 scales, different scales that we use in pop music, but mostly we just use the standard scale. I think it's called a DeLorean scale or the mixed DeLorean. You're going to have to help me out there and see what's going on there. But yeah, so that's I think we've gone an hour and a half now. So and I think we pretty much covered what you can do with notes and the magic of notes. I think this is going to be good. Oh, I did want to mention a few other things. There's 2 kinds of melodies. There's independent melodies and there's dependent melodies, right? Because people say, I've heard it said before that a melody should stand alone without a lyric. Okay, part of the time that would work. But again, I always use this song. Da 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 da, and they go on, boy, that's boring as all get out. That's because that famous, super famous, and wouldn't we all want to have the money on that one song, Hotel California, he changes the chords. So a dependent melody can be almost boring melody. Like we just did a melody that was just one note. So melodies don't have to stand alone. The melody and the chords have to stand alone without the lyric, okay? So I always check myself, I always sing my song without any lyrics to make sure, I'm I'm feeling good about this music. I'm feeling it. And like I said earlier, I always like to, I don't get very far in the lyric at all before I start writing music, because the music pushes me to finish the song, right? Because I'm kind of lazy. There, I said it. But that music will keep me going. Keep me going. All right. So before we close, just a few more things. I'm looking at my notes and I see there's a few more things I didn't cover. Let's talk about what a great melody is. A great melody is, first, it's singable. So that means for a guy, it's only going to be one octave plus a couple of notes. Most guys don't have a real range. Of course, there's the famous Justin Timberlakes and so forth that have great range. But most guys don't have that much range. One octave plus 2 notes, 3 notes maybe. So when you're writing, make sure your melody doesn't, because you might be a good singer. Or the other thing that happens is, when I'm sitting in my studio here by myself, I can sing in falsetto, and I'm thinking, wow, what a cool song. I'm singing very relaxed with my falsetto, with my deep voice. And then I go to sing it, actually sing it in a full voice, and I go, holy crap, I can't sing this thing. I wrote it out in my range, So make sure it's singable. Number 2 is, I want to make sure that it reflects the emotion of the lyric, right? And we've already talked about that's called prosody, right? Is it time to tell you that there's something else besides prosody? Is it time? I think it is. There's prosody, and then there's what I call, for lack of a better word, there's forced prosody, right? Forced prosody is, stop in the name of love before you break my heart, yeah. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Think it over. Think it over. Motown made a living off of what I call forced prosody, where they took a sad lyric and put it to a happy melody. And back in the 60s, rock and roll was just on its. It hadn't even celebrated a 10-year anniversary. Rock and roll sort of officially started in '56. I think was the first top 40 radio and list came out on Billboard. I think around maybe late 55, 56, because there wasn't enough rock and roll songs, enough pop songs to actually start a rock and roll station. But by 1956, there was just enough. At any rate, they realized, these are the days of innocence, right? The 50s, where it was just such an innocent time. After World War II, everybody was relieved and relaxed. Democrats and Republicans didn't fight that much. It was wonderful. They decided, teenagers, they want to have angst, but in these innocent days, they don't want to have too much angst. So why don't we try putting sad lyric to happy music, and they can dance their miseries away. And it worked. It was the most fantastic formula ever, right? It worked great, right? So you can have prosody. You can make sure that your melody fits the lyric emotionally, or you can purposely force the music to be the opposite emotion than the lyric is. Now, this is a good time to say, and I will say this over and over again during all our lessons, that music always rules over over lyrics. Music always dominates, always, always, always. I don't care how happy your lyric is. If you're doing a sad song, if you're singing, as As I write this letter, as I write this letter, send my love to you. Remember that I'll always be in love with you. There's no way that song is ever going to be happy. You know, as I write this letter to send my love to you, remember that I'll always be in love with you. As I write this letter, send my love to you. Remember that I'll always be in love with you. Be in love with you. As I write this letter, there's no way that's going to be happy. Because music, for whatever, well, maybe it's because it goes directly to the emotional center and bypasses lyric. But just keep that in mind, all you vets and non-vets out there, that music always dominates. So you want to make sure that it's matching up, you know, or on purpose not matching up. Another thing that music is, what I'm always looking for, is it has a touch of originality. All right? A great melody has, remember we talked about originality is nothing more than a series of tiny surprises. So we're not saying go off the charts. We want it to be, and this is another thing we want our melody to be, is we wanted it to be relatable. We want our music without the lyric to be relatable, right? We want people to relate to it. So in other words, if I'm writing a country song, I want it to sound country-ish, right? If I'm writing a hip-hop song, I want it to sound hip-hoppy, right? So I want it to be relatable, all right? Very important, very important. Okay, we did relative, minor, major. I guess one other thing before we wrap this up. I keep going one other thing. But you might be wanting to know how to modulate. Like if you're in the key of E here. And you want to modulate. To find a new key maybe for the chorus. The best way to do it is to find a note. Let's go. Now that note fits this chord, but it also fits this chord. Sorry, let me try it again. Okay, that's the 5 of B. That's the 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5 of B, but it's the 1 of. It's the 1 of F sharp. So. See how I did that? I stayed on that note and found another chord that will fit that note. The note was there, so I can go 1, 4, or 5. So there's 3 chords I can use. And then I can all use the minor chords of that too. So there's a lot of things I can do there. The other thing we can do is just memorize it. In other words, we can just jump to it, right? Or you can go to the relative minor. That's the other one. So for that. was the relative minor of the G. I was in the key of G, and then I decided the relative minor, which is 3 half steps down from G, 1, 2, 3 half steps down, and then go to the minor. So that's E minor. So I can modulate to E minor really easily. And then E minor would be A minor, and then B minor. So I can go to that minor. But what I like to do is pick a note and go to it. And I can go that's A. So I just went to A. Back in G. So I picked that note and just found another chord for it. Isn't that awesome? The other thing you can do is just experiment and try different things. You know, you can just try it. Modulate, just hit a note like then I can say da 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 da. So I just sang a different melody that just sounded good, and I just found the chord that went with that melody, right? So you can do that just by experimenting, by just singing the note, right? So that's just an interesting little trick about modulating, right? And I think that pretty much wraps up our musical section. So starting on Friday, we'll move into the wide realm of lyrics, right? And melody things will come up now and then, right? They'll come up now and then. But we'll concentrate from now on more on lyrics than melody, now that we've got all our little melody tricks coming, pretty much sort of basically covered, right? And I'd like to thank CreatiVets for allowing me this time to be with you people. I hope we've had fun. I hope we learned a little something. And don't hesitate to give money to the CreatiVets thing, because they're really a wonderful organization, helping vets transform from wartime mentality to a creative and peace-loving mentality. You know, so you know, that would just be wonderful if you would do that. If you take the time to just pop them a little money, that would be really nice. We really appreciate that. And for all you people that have been watching, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I will see you at 1 o'clock. I'll see you 1 o'clock on Friday for another round of who knows what. But it'll be in the lyric realm, and I am looking forward to it. All right? So, bye for now.